Welcome to Empowered, Mind-Body Inspiration. The mind is the map to wholeness, wellness, health. The heart is the key to genius and inspiration. Join me and my guests as we explore how to release and rewire into who you truly are, unique, whole, and empowered. Please like, share, and subscribe. Spiral up, spiral out. Welcome, everyone. Today we have Kathy Grover from Santa Barbara, California. Kathy is an award-winning author, professional speaker, and former actor with over 30 years of experience in mind-body medicine and human behavior. She's delivered 2 TEDx talks, written 8 books, and most recently appeared on the Dr. Phil Show. She has earned her PhD in natural health and has studied mind-body medicine at the Benson Henry Institute at Harvard. She too has an incredible personal story, from actress to author to trapeze artist to the Dr. Phil Show. This should be an inspiring conversation. Let's see how it spirals out. Welcome, Kathy. So excited to have you on Empowered.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So you have quite the journey. It's, there's these artistic passions combined with mind-body medicine. And, I really want to hear what drove you, or what was the inner passion, that created that desire to become such an expert in that. And then, you've done trapeze, been on Dr. Phil. So I just want to hear all about the journey. So where should we start?
Oh, geez, that's a great question. So I guess we have to go all the way back to Pittsburgh, where I grew up. The one of the triggering things for me is my mom passed away when I was young. She died when I was 18. So she got sick when I was about 12 or 13, and then after a long battle with cancer, passed away. So people like to equate, oh, well, clearly that's what led you into healing. It wasn't quite that A plus B equals C sort of thing. I think it was more watching my dad be such an incredible caregiver. So I got to watch him really care for my mom and be patient and try to find her options that didn't exist in the 80s in Pittsburgh. With cancer, it was chemo, radiation, surgery. And even as a kid, I remember suggesting something like acupuncture or meditation. And of course, the doctor thought I was a crazy person because it just wasn't something that was done. So I think we'll shelve that, but it was that wanting options for people. I was a theater major. I stepped on stage when I was about 5. And while I was studying at Point Park University in Pittsburgh, I accidentally apprenticed with a woman to learn massage. Didn't know I was learning it. I sat there and just watched what she was doing. And finally, one day she said, "Hey, would you go in the other room and work on that other student?" I'm like, "No, I don't know what I'm doing." But I had the sense to listen, and it turned out I was really good at it. And I guess I just absorbed all of the knowledge that she had over the years. And so I always had this parallel path of the acting and the healing. So when I got to Los Angeles as an actor, I thought, what a great sideline, right? I could do massage along the way. And the massage stuck, but the acting didn't. I learned that was a very hard career to take. And so when I moved to Santa Barbara, I started my massage practice full time. And that's where I really got to bring in the caring and the options for people. And I realized my clients wanted me to actually be a health practitioner, not just stick an elbow where it hurts kind of thing. And so I started studying more and more. And I'm a lifetime learner. If I could be in school forever, I would absolutely do that. I'd have 700 degrees for things. So I just started expanding, and I found I really had an affinity for the mind-body connection and knowing how our thoughts are affecting our body, how our thoughts and what we're hearing, our words, are affecting our health and our outcomes. And so I really just threw myself into that, and then found myself back on stage as a speaker, and then started writing, and then started doing more media things. So everything's been a combination of follow the breadcrumbs, and it's everything I've always wanted, just in a different package. So it's been a really cool journey.
Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it, how life just leads you from one thing to another. And often the things that, you learned at 5, you're still using today, or they'll be a clue as to what you should be doing. So incredible.
Yeah.
And the trapeze.
Yeah. I'm an adventure junkie. My motto since high school has been go for it. It's my license plate. That's just been my thing. Because to me, it's like, why would I not try that? Why would I not try that food, that wine, that activity? I'm not a crazy person. I'm not going to go like base jumping off the Empire State Building or something, but I want to experience these things. And so I had a client say, "Oh my gosh, you've already done so much. What's next on your list?" And I realized I had always wanted to try flying trapeze and didn't even know that was a thing you could do until I remember watching a Sex and the City episode where Carrie did trapeze in New York. And I remember thinking, oh my God, you could actually like go do that. Like you could sign up and do that. So my client was getting changed. I was on the internet looking to see where I could do trapeze. And 2 weekends later, ended up in Santa Monica on the pier for my first trapeze class, thinking it'll be a one-time thing. Yeah, no, it's been 9 years. So
Really?
it's been
Yeah.
9. We have a rig now in town, so I'm working on double somersaults right now, which is terrifying and exciting all at the same time. So it's
Right? It can be such an adventure. I was really sad. We became Canadian ballroom dance champions and were slated to go to the Worlds when I got pregnant with twins.
oh my goodness.
And so it kind of stopped my dance career. And I always thought I'd get back to it, but that was definitely not in the cards with twins. And
Wow.
and I decided to become a naturopathic doctor at the same time. But I think when my girls were maybe 4, I decided, what could I do that would have as much fun in it, yet I could just go for an hour on my own and didn't
Yep.
include a partner. And it was trampoline.
Oh, so
And
cool.
the benefits and the fun, right? I learned how to do backflips and yeah, all kinds of tricks, and
It's
broke
so fun.
broke my leg doing a double back. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's why I don't do trampoline. See, that's why I don't do that. No, to
too
that
much
point.
torque.
Yeah, well, exactly. To that point, though, it's if find what that adventure is for you, and maybe you don't jump on the trampoline or you don't head off and do trapeze. Maybe it's just trying a new restaurant. We get so stuck in our routines, and I encourage people to get out of their comfort zone. Maybe you drive a different way to work. Maybe you talk to a stranger in line at the grocery store. It could be anything for anyone. We all have a different level of risk tolerance, a different level of extroversion and introversion. So that taking a risk might look very different for somebody else than it does for me. Just I encourage people to do it. It makes life so much fuller, and it's those experiences that enriches our lives so that we can then enrich the lives of others.
Yeah, and every new thing we do builds neurotransmitters in our brain, right?
Yep.
So
It keeps us learning, it keeps us growing. And you're right, it's absolutely great for our brain. And if it's a physical activity, it's good for our body, which is good for our mood, which is good for everything. So yeah, there's no downside to this.
no. So tell me some of the real gems you try to tell people about mind body medicine.
Yeah, especially coming out of what we just did, stress is through the roof, right? Of course. I like to express to people that stress isn't really the problem. It's actually our reaction to the problem, because the stress we can't stop. If we could stop it or control it, we would, and it would just be another thing we have to do. So the stress is this perception that demands are going to exceed our resources. So it's an idea that things are just bigger than what we can handle. And that builds up over time. We might have one stressful thing on Monday, which we go, okay, I can handle it. And by Friday, after you've had 30 stressful things, you're completely losing it. So it tends to build up if we don't handle it as it comes. And it's really about our response to it. Can we change from being reactive to responsive? Can we take that pause? And that pause can be breathing, taking that deep breath, doing a quick meditation. Maybe you go for a run. Maybe you pet the cat. What can you do to neutralize yourself so that you can handle it from a more rational, responsive place? So that's one of the first things I say is, let's control what we can, which is our thoughts, which is our response to things. And then I love to teach meditation. I'm a horrible meditator. I'm very type A, dancer, go, go, go. So tell me to sit on a pillow and blank out my mind. Oh, no. It's terrible for me. So when I studied mind body medicine at Harvard, I learned this really amazing meditation, which we call the mini, which is simply concentrating on the breathing. And on the inhale, we think I am. And on the exhale, we think at peace. And you just repeat that over and over again. You could do it for a minute. You could do it for 10 minutes. It's the easiest thing I've found to stop that response, to stop that reactivity and let us respond to stress in a different way. So those are just a couple of the things that I love to teach.
Right? Meditation can be so simple. And, even just being in the moment, truly in the moment with your five senses on a walk or focusing on just one sense, right? Can be one of the things you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I teach mindfulness, because I teach 5 stress reduction techniques, and one of them is mindfulness. So the breath work, the meditation, affirmation, and visualization, which I love. And then the mindfulness, and that's exactly what I say is, whether you focus on one sense, just close your eyes and what do you hear in the environment, or you go about an activity and you bring all of your senses in. It's something you have to do anyway. You've got to wash the dishes, you've got to brush your teeth, really be present with that activity. Don't daydream, don't listen to a podcast. If you think, say, no, I'm not thinking right now, and you let it just float away, which trains us then off the pillow to actually be better at letting those thoughts just go by, letting the judge goes away, the distraction goes away, and then it brings us to presence. And that's really the key, is just being present in every moment as much as we can.
Yeah. Which then allows you to be in touch with your intuition and really know what to do next, right?
Yes, absolutely. So often we completely steamroll over what our gut is saying to us. And I think that's one of the most important things too, is what our intuition's there for a reason. That gut feeling is there for a reason. And I think we so often just dismiss that. So that's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're overwhelmed because we don't know what to do. So this is the way out. I always say one more thing and I'm going to snap like a dry twig. And I know so I know it's time to go do some connecting, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's great that you recognize that. There's one more thing. So often we get 3 things past the one more thing, and then we don't know how to bring ourselves back. So the
Yeah.
recognition of that, I'm about to lose it, is a really great thing. We've all been there. We've all
Right?
been
It's human. We
there.
feel the build. Tell us
Yeah.
about visualization. You said it was one of your favorite things.
Yeah, I learned to visualize when I was in high school, which is a very young age to learn to visualize. But because I was doing theater, I was constantly around adults, and so they imparted all this great wisdom in me that I had the sense to listen to. um, our brain doesn't recognize the difference between what we're thinking about and imagining and what's actually happening. This is why we can wake up from dreams and be really uncomfortable with our neighbor, or we're mad at our husband for not rescuing us from the dragon, or whatever it is. So our brain doesn't understand that. So when we're thinking things, when we're visualizing things, if we're visualizing negative things, our brain thinks that's actually happening. So it's going to mount this negative response, whether it's a fight or flight response or just a stress response. If we can visualize positive things, if we can visualize those outcomes that we want, our brain is going to work on getting us those things. Our brain moves to things that's familiar to us. This is why so many people are risk adverse. They'd rather stay in the bad relationship because it's familiar. They'd rather sit in the dirty booth with the same sandwich that is okay than risk getting out of that booth and going to someplace new. So if you start to visualize and make those things that you want real for your brain, it's going to start taking you in that direction. And that's another way to start rewiring the brain, that neuroplasticity that you mentioned earlier. So, make the visualizations positive and beautiful, and you can relax. Like you said, if you picture yourself walking through the woods and you bring in all of your senses, your body's going to respond as if you did that. Your body's going to think you're on vacation. Who doesn't need a vacation right now, right? Or visualize those outcomes. Or if you handled a situation in a way that you wish you wouldn't have, because we're going to think about that anyway, right? We're going to replay that over and over again. Change the ending, change how you wish you would have responded to that, because then the next time you are in a similar situation, your brain's going to know. You've just retrained your brain. So there's a couple ways. You can use visualization for healing too, which is one of my favorite things, is whether it's boosting the immune system or visualizing a growth melting away, or you sleeping better. The brain responds to that. It's been studies support that that's what happens. So it's pretty exciting, and I love working with visualization. It's such a customizable thing for people.
Right? It's so powerful. I often do what we call a dream card. And looking back, 2 years later, you're like, oh my goodness, I did this.
Mhm.
And because you saw it first. But too, yeah, we react so quickly, and our automatic brain is like much faster than our conscious mind. So it can be a very fast reaction, and sometimes and it comes from instinct or out of fear, right? And so it can be fast, and the repercussions can be kind of big too, because things come out that we didn't really
Yes.
want to happen. So
Yes.
yeah.
We've all had that happen where you're like, oh, no, 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 no. And you're trying to put it back in as it's coming out. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Right. And it comes from that place. So, yeah, if you, like you say, retrain your brain to react differently, it can be pretty powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I want to talk just quickly. How the heck did you get on Dr. Phil?
Oh, geez.
That is so cool.
That was the weirdest thing. So it's so funny because when I had a publicist and I was like pushing the media, I got a couple good things. And having come from a theater background, it was so different for me because usually you get an agent, you pay them 10% if they get you work.
Mm.
In this kind of world with a publicist or a PR person, you pay them an enormous amount of money and they get you stuff that doesn't pay. Or they don't, and you're end up paying. It's like so when I actually had a publicist, I didn't get anything nearly as big as Dr. Phil. They contacted me. It was a weekend. I was about to head to the beach with my boyfriend, and I got a phone call saying, hey, this is so and so from Dr. Phil. And I went, okay, is this a joke? And then I listened to the whole message and went, oh my God, we have to delay going to the beach. It was a case where there was a massage therapist who was allegedly assaulting women on the massage table. And because I have a background in massage and I'm so easily Googleable, and I've done expert witness work for massage cases, they happened to find me. I think they found my TEDx talk. And so they contacted me and said, look, Dr. Phil knows a lot about a lot. He does not know anything about massage. We would like an expert to come on to talk about scope of practice and ethics and what this guy did. And is his ad okay? And so they headed me down to LA. And we filmed one of the segments. So it was so exciting. I was so happy to help. This guy was a total scumbag. I actually need to follow up to see if he's in jail because he should be. Very scary, very mentally unstable. So I got to help. It was amazing. So being on the set of Dr. Phil, especially in the middle of a global pandemic, was also interesting because you couldn't get near anybody, and their safety precautions were amazing with that. But it was really exciting. It was really exciting to do, and it was such an honor to do because I got to help. All these women who were victimized by this guy. Hopefully, will get their day. So.
And just another example of what life it's like the things that I often say, you'll know what's next, and then everything before that will make sense. Everything you've done, right?
Exactly. That is absolutely so true. Things that I learned years ago when I was studying for my PhD or some certificate that I was getting somewhere, that is always cycling back. I don't think anything's a waste, and I remember when I left Los Angeles and stopped my theater career, everyone was like, oh, what a waste. You have this degree and you're so good. And I'm like, it's not nothing's a waste. It's a waste if I don't find value in it. That's when it's a waste. Or if there's a breakup and it's like, oh, that's such a shit. It's like, what did I learn from that? So to me, we go through these experiences. Some of them we can deem negative, whether it's the tax audit or the breakup or the job loss, or, what pearl of wisdom of learning can we find in that to move us forward that might cycle through for somebody later? I think everything I've learned, I've been able to help somebody else with. So, to me, it's all a gift. It might not seem like that in the moment. We still get cranky about it. There might be some profanity and some tears, but ultimately, if you look back, I think we can see the value in it all.
Right. And what you learn as an actress is to go within and connect to that inner part of you, and then to connect with other people. So it's a huge, valuable thing to learn.
And it definitely helps me on stage, and it definitely helps me with my coaching because there's a way to build that rapport. And, life is sort of improv. So it's all yes and you never know what's going to be thrown at you. I never know from time to time what a coaching client's going to bring to me. We might have an agenda, and then they might have a fight with their sister the day before. So suddenly we're pivoting out of talking about job stuff to this horrible narcissistic experience with a family member or something. So, I got to be ready. I got to be ready to pivot at the drop of a hat. So I like it. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. Life is like an improv. It's so true.
It is.
So tell us about these 3 or ego states. That's like your new favorite topic. And I'm really intrigued.
Yeah. So I discovered I'm a hypnotherapist as well. And we talk about parts work in hypnotherapy. And there's something called internal family systems, there's resource state therapy, there's ego state therapy. It's all basically the same thing. And what that looks at is these different aspects of our personality that we bring out in any given situation. So I think we all recognize we have like a work persona and a home persona. Those are just two. When we're around a little kid and we get down on the floor and we're playing, that's a different persona than what we bring to the boardroom. Hopefully, because if you're doing both at this, if you're switching those, it's not going to go well for either situation. So the ego state work actually looks at what are those different personalities. We have between 10 or 15 that come out most commonly, and we can have up to 50, up to 100 that sort of sit in the background and we don't see very often. These are formed in childhood. These are hardwired into our brain. This is not some psychological construct. These are actually proven to be there. And through working with them, you get to decide who you bring out at any given time. So if you have to make a really deemed to you scary sales presentation, you don't want your scared little kid to come out. You don't want your introvert to come out. You want to tap into that leader, that eloquent speaker, that confident part of your personality so that you can present and get the job done. So we start to work with those by figuring out who they are. What do they like to be called? What are their qualities? What do they do for you? And then how do we get them to be in the executive or in charge at that time? So it's so much fun. I love speaking about it. I've done workshops, and that's a big part of my coaching, because as soon as I start to point this out to people, they go, oh my God, that makes so much sense. And as we're doing the coaching session, I'll get to say, which state was that? And they go, oh, that was my shameful state. And, and we have a conversation around it. So it's just such a neat way to language those various aspects of our personality and to work through them and to identify them and figure out how to work with each one and what the kind of scared ones need is huge for us moving forward. So it's absolutely one of my new favorite things.
I love it. I work with the unconscious mind through homeopathy and try to heal or break the circuit that's causing stress in the body. But I was just thinking, when we're public speaking and we want to have the hat on that's got this, but the little kids, rising up with the want to just hide in the back corner and, you can't breathe and you can't think. And how do you get people to switch? Is it just recognizing it?
The first part is recognizing it, because imagine if you get hired in a new company and you walk into the boardroom and there's all the employees there and you don't know who anybody is. You're not going to randomly turn to somebody and go, hey, can you go make copies? And they go, I'm the CEO. Or you turn to somebody and say, hey, can you go answer the phone? And they say, I'm IT. If you don't know what their role is, you can't assign them anything. So that's why the first thing is really figure out who these aspects are. One of my big aspects is Capricorn. She's great. She gets everything done. She's the one that gets me through school. She's allowed me to get my PhD. She's also a workaholic, very judgmental, not particularly balanced. And her fear is if she doesn't keep me busy, doing, that I'll be too vulnerable, I'll feel things, and I'll get hurt. So I understand where I need her, which is let's get the job done. And I can tell when she's getting out of control. And if I'm ready to have a romantic night with my boyfriend, I don't want to be Capricorning. I don't want to be organizing the kitchen for the 13th time. So it's a matter of recognizing what her job is, what her fear is if she isn't in that job, and then what other aspects can take over. So it's about just identifying them. And then the way to switch is coming from a place of self. And self is this neutral place. Self is curious, courageous, kind, courteous, loving. It's this neutral place. And I don't know if you ever played with paper dolls when you were a kid. There was that one paper doll, which is the main one, which is this little girl either like in a slip or little bra panties or whatever it is. And it's a neutral thing. And then you get to choose which outfit you put on. If you keep piling outfits on, it doesn't look as good, right? It doesn't function as well. So that self is that neutral doll where you can choose whatever aspect of your personality you want to put on. And you can get to self through all the things we talked about: meditation, mindfulness, breath work, exercise. Sometimes taking a nap does that almost Control Alt Delete and gets us back to that neutral place. And then you can put on whatever personality you want if you know who you're putting on. It's a big combination of stuff.
Oh, wow. So I often tell patients, go to neutral. That's right. But to teach them how to do it and why is super. That's brilliant how you explained that. because then, yes, then you can put on the new persona. But if the child, fearful, freaked out, is still wearing the clothing,
Yep.
you can't switch. She's still under there, right? So
Yep.
you do it through by the meditation and the breath work and going to neutral.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing you can do is it's a tool that we use a lot in hypnosis called anchoring. You can anchor that state in. So when I was doing the traveling for the public speaking, and it's finally coming back, but for a year I was sitting on Zoom. One of the things that triggered me into my speaker persona was put on the heels, put on the dress. As soon as I stepped out on stage, I was in it.
Right.
Suddenly I find myself sitting at home talking to theoretically nobody in yoga pants and a nice top. It took me, it was a tough switch to get my professional speaker persona up sitting in my own living room. I was used to doing radio and podcasts, but to do my talks in that environment was really hard. Some people have a power tie. I'm a huge NFL fan, and if you watch the guys coming out of the locker room, they've got a lot typically have earbuds in, and they've got that song that pumps them up and gets them ready to go. So you can anchor states in that way too. Sometimes that takes rehearsal and takes figuring out, what will trigger that state in me. Maybe it's watching another speaker do really, really good talk. I know if I see people dancing, because I've been dancing since I was a kid, that gets me in that dance mode. Like I'm ready to perform sort of thing. So it's such an individual thing. And this is why working with someone like you or me through a coaching relationship helps. We can help guide people through that.
Yeah. And what do people react in hurt and pain as well. Maybe they're suddenly triggered. Someone says something that reminds them of a father that was abusive or something like that, and they go right into that state. Are there any tricks you teach to go to neutral?
Yeah, that's a tough one. In fact, I just went through that last weekend. Somebody said something that triggered this shameful little kid, and I had so much trouble getting out of it. So, one of the things to know sort of in advance is, what does that little kid need? Does it need another state to come in? Does it need a break? Does it need to walk away from that situation? It's so hard when we're triggered with one of these, what we call vated states. It's kind of hard to pull back. This is why doing the work ahead of time is actually really useful. And at that time, I do this for a living, I didn't even have the ability to get out of that state. It was just so triggering to me. It just blew the whole rest of the day, which now I look back and go, come on, you have tools for this. Which, now I can't beat myself up, or it happened and now I can learn from that. Knowing what that state is going to need, if that's a commonly triggered state for you. Some people have the angry bull that is triggered. We've all seen those people where we go, whoa, Bob just freaked out. What's up with that? A state was triggered for him. If we recognize this in other people, and this is really cool, so often we can come from self to help other people heal their state. So if I see, a coworker or a partner go into what's deemed a negative state, if I can stay in self and help bring them out of it, if I can be nurturing, caring, not judgmental, then that helps them as well. So that's another way to do it.
Yeah. To recognize it in others helps you see it within yourself, and to help others helps pull you out of it, right?
Yeah, because so often states trigger other states, right? This is so common in relationships. The one spouse goes into the angry bull, the other spouse goes into pleaser, and when they realize that doesn't work, then they go into guilty, and then they go into angry too, and then you end up standing there screaming at each other. No problem's been solved. The neighbors don't like it. So how can you find a way to stay neutral so that your state isn't triggered by somebody else's state? It's a dance. It's a dance.
Yeah, it can really just go round and round.
Yeah.
So yeah, and sometimes just to take that breath, give yourself 30 seconds before you react, because that automatic state is so quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that you had that experience just a week ago, and
I didn't.
You didn't love it. We're always learning, and we're human, right? That's what I take cases all the time, and we both do, treating people with these problems, and you realize it's a human reaction. It's a human program. We all are programmed and have these states. Yeah. So it's okay.
Absolutely. And, the learning comes from that. So now I have the opportunity to sit down and with that shameful state, which I don't see very often. So it was really triggering for me, and say, what did I need in that moment? what does this state need? She clearly popped up for something. Does she need another part of me to nurture her? Does she need somebody external to nurture? Like what does that state need to be healed? And then I get to work towards that. So in a way, that's right. It is a gift that these states kind of pop up every once in a while where you go, oh, wow, I didn't know that even was a thing. How can I help heal that? What does this need? And then we can go from there and help figure it out. So yeah, it was a gift.
Yeah. And did it help to go back to when it happened? Or sometimes you can't even remember it, but close to it and actually feel it all again, right?
Yeah, it is helpful. I mean, if it's a really faded state, I mean, we certainly don't want to go and relive trauma. But I've actually been thinking about that. I was like, where did that come? Like originally, where did that come from? How did that state form? And because these states are formed in childhood, either as a protection or a defense mechanism, we all have a rebel in us. If we didn't have a rebel, we never would have jumped off mom's lap and walked away. We'd still be sitting at home with our parents if we didn't have a certain amount of rebellious in us. It's the little kid that sits at the high chair and picks up the food and like looks to the parent of, should I throw this? Should I throw this? And the parent goes, no, no, no. And the kid throws it anyway and then laughs. That's the development of the rebel. We all have that. So you get to look back and say, how did these states develop? What did they come out of? And, whether we've had big T or little t trauma, sometimes just being dropped off for kindergarten is a horribly traumatic thing. That's not the parent being abusive. That's the parent doing what they have to do when you're 3 or 4 or whatever age that is. So going back and seeing, what is that triggering event? What does that remind us of? When was the first time we felt that? Then we can heal it moving forward so that it isn't as raw, so that it doesn't come up as much. So there's a little bit of detective work that has to go on with it.
Yeah. And sometimes it's in really early childhood, even if you had a mom that couldn't breastfeed and, for physical reasons, and you were, cut off from that connection just young, and you have no idea why you're now reacting when someone, is just doing something that doesn't include you, or, you're just instantly triggered, and it can be that far back.
Yeah, absolutely. Or us children of the 70s who that wasn't even a thing.
Right.
If you weren't getting a formula, you were considered, a crazy person. So no, it's interesting, and sometimes it is so unconscious. We don't even know, maybe we were lost in the mall when we were 3, we turned around and mom was gone, and that has just imprinted on us for some reason. Or it's that just the look that person gave us that made us feel shameful about what we were doing or who we were, that carries on. And it's amazing what can trigger those things. And sometimes the triggers are great because it does get us back to that root, so we can heal that, so that we can move forward in just a healthier way. So it's all so interconnected. All of the methods and modalities are so interconnected. It's so fabulous.
Yeah. So you get at it through hypnosis sometimes, do you?
Yeah. So, I mean, hypnosis is great with the parts work. I don't even need that. I've got these really cool cards that a therapist friend of mine recommended called I always get them wrong, interactive cards. And there's about 80 cards with just different images on them. And I will hand them to my client and say, pick out which cards resonate with you. And then we start to identify those as ego states. And then we start to put them into what triggers what 2 states are in conflict. Because so often my Capricorn state is in conflict with my rest, like my relaxation, self-care state, because the Capricorn's going, you shouldn't get a massage right now. You should really be working on whatever, fill in the blank. Or TV, you have a to-do list to do. Now, both are right. I do have to get the to-do list done. And it's important to have that self-care. So where are those states in conflict? Where are those states that trigger other states? And really, figuring out with the cards, I have clients that'll take pictures in my office, take pictures of the cards and then write about them. Like they'll print it out and write about those states. And if I do it virtually, I send people a deck of cards and we play with them. It's one of the best tools that I found. So often we don't even need to do the hypnosis. It's just about that identifying, and you can actually negotiate between the states and you can bring them into that and talk to the state. No hypnosis needed. We're really easy to get into those states.
Yeah. I do it through homeopathy. But what's the name of these cards? Because someone could go get them and even start to recognize, right?
Absolutely. So they're called interactive cards, and interactive cards for parts work. And you can get them directly from selfleadership.org, or I always get them in bulk. I find them online somewhere. I have no affiliation with them, but I just love them. I think they're amazing. It's just incredible. Internal family systems, parts work, all that stuff is sort of different words for the same
Yeah.
same method of healing.
Yeah. Beautiful. And so empowering. I love it. Now, I just want you to tell us what, when you do trapeze, I'm sure it just tickles you on the inside and feeds the wild and fun loving not and there's probably a little Capricorn in there because you like to do it well.
Yeah.
Just tell us about that, because I love that you do that.
Yeah, it's my adventure. It's my fun. And it's a little bit of the Capricorn because I have to be present and sort of focused to do it. So interestingly, I've experimented on where do I do it best when I'm coming from which state. And depending on what I'm doing, sometimes it's just the fun state. There's a gentleman who does trapeze with me every once in a while. And we've come up with these alter personas of just, I call myself Miranda. He calls himself Buck. And we joke about Buck and Miranda doing trapeze. It's hilarious. That's sort of more the fun state. When I'm getting ready for a show, it's a combination of the performer and the Capricorn because I'm focused. I want to make sure it's done right and done well. So, I've kind of played with who do I want flying today? Sometimes it's just the silly little kid and I just have fun. It just depends. So you get to choose, and once you know who these states are, you get to choose who you play with that day. You get to choose who you bring forward for that. So yeah, it's fun. Same thing with when I'm speaking, it's a combination of professional presenter, gesture, because I has to be funny or else it's just blah, blah, blah. And my librarian sort of stands off to the side and, notices the time, notices, oh, those people aren't paying attention. Why don't you change the cadence of your voice? Or, oh, next slide. It kind of keeps me on track. So these three rotate through all the time. And you figure if only one was presenting, if it was only the jester, it would be stand-up comedy and not particularly not a lot of learning. And if it was just the presenter, it would be boring as heck. So, it's this combination of things and we switch so quickly.
Brilliant. Love it. And yeah, I think taking on something new that feeds that inner child and your brain, learning new things. So yours was trapeze. Love it.
It's so much fun.
So how do people find you if they're loving what you're saying and want to learn more? How do they?
Absolutely. So I'm all over social media, but the two best places, it's KathyGruver.com, Kathy with a K, GRUVER.com, or KathyGruver.coach. So you can find all of my books. I've got 8 books up on the KathyGruver.com site. And then if you want to learn more about coaching, ego states, what I do with that, then it's KathyGruver.coach.
8 books.
Yeah.
Was that on vision boards over time?
No, but what's hilarious is I just finished my book on communication because I've been doing a lot of communication workshops and people say, do you have a book for this one? So I thought, I need a book called Say What? How to Communicate Anything to Anyone. And the image that I put on the book is this sort of cartoon, really bright colors of silhouettes with the talking bubbles above them. And I went back and found an old vision board of mine. And that image was one of the images I put on the vision board. And I don't remember why I put it on there because it was just the image of the people talking. I don't know if it was I wanted to do more speaking or I wanted to improve my communication. I don't remember why I put it on the vision board, but completely unknown to me, that ended up being the image I used on the book. So, it all
slides together.
It's so amazing. I was floored when I found that. I went, oh my God, look at this. Yeah, good stuff. So.
Well, thank you so much for being on Empowered. I loved sharing this time with you, and I just think you're brilliant.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. This has been fun. I love sharing all this stuff.
And can you leave our listeners with one final gem from Kathy?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we started with, which is go for it. Stretch yourself, get out of your comfort zone, try something new. Whether it's a new restaurant, a new recipe, a new route to work, talking to somebody that you've never spoken to before, get out of your comfort zone and just stretch yourself. There's huge rewards to that. So yeah, just go for it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And for everyone out there, don't forget, don't give away your power to anyone else. Be the creator of your own life. Spiral up, spiral out.